Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 286th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube, and this has got the ingredients to be a real classic. Okay, the team I'm in today consists of Brotherhood member Gladius, who has bought the Greek cities faction, and as you can see there, I think he's got 14 pike units, 12 of them Spartans and 2 armoured units there. Here's a close-up of the Spartans. Remember, they got 2 hit points and excellent specifications. And then we go on to the Cretan archers. These guys have got long range and can do a lot of damage. And very good archers those are. So he's got 3 of those. And unusually in his army, not many people bring them these days, are units of light cavalry. Now we can use these for harassing and haranguing the enemy, hitting soft targets like archers. And so I think that's a pretty good army, that, and I know that Gladius has been experimenting with different Greek cities armies, and that one looks pretty good to me. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Rome Julii faction. I think that looks like about 14 infantry and 6 cavalry, which is the usual standard army, 31k army for Rome. And our next teammate is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks. Now, I just like to draw your attention to this. If you notice that Steve has only got 7 units of infantry. Now, 7 units of infantry on a modern day battlefield is not a lot, and he's got 7 archers. So he's got 7 infantry and 7 archers there, and I see he's got 6 cavalry. Let's just have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. Okay, if you have a look, can you see he's got 9 upgrades? So these cavalry are fully upgraded. That's 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So they are extremely serious cavalry. With maximum upgrades, that makes them extremely tough. But with only 7 infantry, that is extremely infantry light for the modern day 31k battlefield. It'd be interesting to see how well that army does during the course of the battle. And then we have my Carthage army here. This is one of my old Carthage armies. I think I've got 14 pikes there, and I got let's have a close look at the pikes there. As you can see, I've got 7 upgrades on them, so that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack, sacred band pikemen, and I've got my Balearic slingers. And they've got good range. The slingers seem to have loads and loads of ammunition, and they can do quite a lot of damage, especially against cavalry and archers. And then I've got my Sacred Band Cavalry. Now if you notice the upgrades on the Sacred Band Cavalry, there are 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. These cavalry are good in their own right. There's a close-up of them. But with that many upgrades on, that makes them even better. And if you notice, I've got 3 of those units there. So only 3 cavalry. But that army is pretty solid. As I say, it's an old army. So there's our team, full of experience. But you wait till you see the other team. It's got the ingredients to be a classic. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd just have a quick look at my formation here. Now, if you notice, I split my army into 2, and I've got 2, if you like, wide formation armies now. Now, there's a reason for that, and as the battle unfolds, I'll explain a little bit more to you about that. You can see it's a pretty good formation, just for what I want for later. Also, just a quick look at Gladius's formation as well. Can you see that he split his Spartan army into 2 as well? He's got good reason for that. And as I say, as the battle starts off, you'll see why he's done that. It's always good to split your army sometimes. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member Spartan Leonidas, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. I think he's got 1 archer unit in there. Let's have a look and see. Yeah, there's 1 archer unit. So I believe he's got 15 infantry units there. And as you can see, 4 cavalry units. And he's made one of his Praetorian cavalry his general there. So he's got an actual cavalry unit there as his general. I see he's got 7 upgrades on that unit. So that's experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. As I say, it's unusual. There's a general there at the front of the cavalry unit. It's unusual to see him bring a cavalry general. So it'll be interesting to see how well that army does. His next teammate is Titan's Mohammed. Now, Titan's called himself Kanki in this battle, but it is actually Titan's Mohammed. And he's also bought the Rome SPQR faction. So he's got his units in Testudo. And then the third teammate is Brotherhood member Cal, who has bought the Rome Brutii faction. That's a pretty good solid army and solid formation there. Cal's been playing RTW for a long time, and that's pretty good army and formation. And their fourth teammate is, well, let's just have a look at Cal's cavalry there. As you see, he's only got he got 7 upgrades on some of his cavalry and 6 on others. And then their fourth teammate is IOW Ambirix, who has bought the Germania faction. Now you can only see 4 of his units there, but that's because the rest of his units are hiding in the long grass. As you know, barbarian units can hide units in long grass, and that's what's happened there. So there's the enemy team there, full of experience, lots of great RTW generals. As I said, this could be a classic. Okay, at this stage of the battle, as the Germania army has come out of hiding, I thought we'd have a look at their army. As you can see here, the Germania general has bought the effective against armour chosen axemen. Remember, these guys used properly can cut large swathes through heavily armoured troops like Roman urban cohorts. And then he's got his 3 berserkers there, as you can see, with good upgrades on. 7 upgrades, I think. And these guys, of course, are based on real historic characters that literally used to go berserk in battle. The real berserkers used to either have a cocktail of drugs, they were drunk, or had mental health issues. And when they went into battle, they literally went berserk. And both friend and foe alike used to avoid these men. Even out of battle, people used to avoid them. And also they've got, in this game, they've got the Night Raiders. Now these infantry are good infantry in their own right, but they also bring a fear factor, which of course lowers the morale of enemy troops and makes them more susceptible to routing. And then we have the Gothic cavalry. If you look at the specifications of this Gothic cavalry, they're one of the best cavalry in the game. Very underestimated, but very good cavalry. So that's the Germania army there. It looks pretty tough to me, and those infantry I call the shock troops of their team, because used properly they can cause a rout of enemy armies. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, I'd like to draw your attention to what Legion 22 is doing with one of his cavalry units. Now what he's trying to do is to get close to some of the Germania berserkers, because if you get an enemy unit close to those berserkers, they will automatically activate. And of course then, what they do, the Germania general loses all control over them, and they will chase the nearest enemy unit. Now if they run forward, they're going to run straight into Greek city pikes, or if that cavalry unit of Legions could lead them all over the battlefield. So that's what Legion's trying to do there. He'd like to try and activate those berserkers before the Germania general wants them to be activated. That's why he's taking that cavalry unit round the back. An interesting tactic, but whether he'll be able to do that, we just have to wait and see. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, I just thought you'd like to see how our team has formed up here. Can you see how Gladius, remember we saw that he'd split his army there, and he'd move forward there to support our Roman allies there. So he'll be ready to attack when necessary. And if you notice that my 2 Carthage armies are at the back here. Now my job for this team is to be the biggest damn nuisance I can be for the Germania general. Now the Germania general, as we said earlier, has bought Germania here with an idea to do a coordinated attack with one of his Roman allies to rout one of my Roman allies, you know, in a joint attack. So that's why I've bought my Carthage army there and split them into 2. Now, as you can see, Gladius has got his Greek cities, but Gladius I think is going to concentrate more on the Roman enemy, knowing that I've got the team's back in regard of Germania with my Carthage army. So that's why we had to talk about this before. If we go and have a look at the Germania, the battle from the viewpoint of Germania, what he would like to do, the Germania general here, is do, as I said, a combination attack with one of his Roman allies here, as we've seen in many battle videos on this channel before, and hopefully to try and rout one of my allies' Roman armies completely. So that's what he would like to do. And you might say that he'd be a brave man to bring Germania when he's facing 2 pike factions. But if I remember right, I think both Mohammed and Ambi were in a team before this that beat us. So my guess is that Ambi's feeling quite confident here. And also he may well have wanted the challenge of bringing Germania against 2 pike factions. But my guess is that he probably is feeling quite confident here to bring Germania. As I say, that's what he would like to do. He'd like to team up with one of his allies there to attack one of my Rome allies. But as I say, you'd probably be a brave man to bring Germania against 2 pike factions there. So it'd be interesting to see how well our formation does hold against the attack by the enemy team. Should be a great one. Okay, at this very early stage of the battle, you can see that Legion 22 has advanced with his army towards the enemy Brutii general there. There's lots of pilot exchanging going on. It looks to me that Legion's kind of setting out his stall very early in this game and looks to be extremely aggressive here. That looks like his tactic. And of course backed up by one of the Greek cities' armies there. As I say, Gladius has split his Spartans into two armies there. So Legion's looking to be aggressive here, knowing that he's got a Spartan, small Spartan army there with him as well. As you can see, Gladius moving those Spartans forward there, and Legion moving the rest of his infantry forward. As I say, he looks like he's going to be aggressive on this right flank. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say here, with a combination of Greek cities and our Julio ally there, it looks like he's going to be aggressive. As you can see there's a lot of cavalry and the Germania cavalry and infantry at the back. And if you notice, I've moved both my Carthage armies over there to shadow the Germania army. Remember, that's what my job is in this team, is to shadow and try and neutralise the Germania threat. You can see Gladius got his main army there facing Mohammed's SPQ army. But I'd just like to draw your attention over here to the left. Can you see Steve? Remember, Steve only got 7 infantry, and he's facing Spartan Leonidas is 15 infantry units and 4 cavalry. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on this left flank if Spartan Leonidas decides to attack aggressively. Meanwhile, over here on the right, you can see, as I say, Legion looking quite aggressive here as he's moving towards, I think it's Cal's Brutii army there. If you notice, Cal's put his 3 pilot shield units into Testudo out the front of his main battle line. As you can see, a lot of pilot exchanging still going on here over on this right flank. I say, I think Legion's feeling pretty confident there as he's got that Spartan army within his ranks, and of course my Carthage Sacred Band armies are right behind his army as well. If Germania tries to attack at all there. As I say earlier, my job in this game is to be the biggest damn nuisance I can be to Germania, and that's what I intend to do. Obviously, I don't want to get bogged down in any fighting of any other enemy units. Those 2 armies I've bought specifically to try and block Germania. But of course, if there is a need, then I can use one of those armies to step into a breach somewhere in the battle line. But of course, that then reduces me to one of my armies there to shadow Germania. Right, as you can see here, Legion 22 with this red Julia army advancing forward there aggressively into Cal's Brutii units. As I say, backed up by one of, as I said before, the Spartan. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. I'd just like to, newer players and veterans watching this here, can you see this particular part of the battlefield here? Right, encompassing the enemy cavalry especially as well. Can you see that one of our allies' units there may be in a bit of a disadvantaged position there? Newer players watching this, I know veterans will probably see this straight away, but newer players watching this, can you see that one of our allies, some of his infantry units might be at a disadvantage here? Okay, do you remember we always talk about the weakest part of a unit is the flank and the rear? And can you see that Legion 22, including his general, is facing left here, showing his flank to the enemy Brutii, and more importantly showing his flank to that heavy cavalry out there. Now my guess is the enemy spotted that, and they may well try and charge in through their allies there to smash his general there in the flank, which my guess would be, with that many cavalry, would rout him. Now yes, Legion's got his cavalry there as a counter, but I still think that showing his flank to the enemy like that, 4 units there, can you see you've got 4 units there, that in fact could be you know, a target for the enemy there. It'll be interesting to see if the enemy tries to take advantage of the position and of his especially his general unit there. Personally, I wouldn't have my general unit that close to the battle. I would have it more at the back, but of course it's all a matter of choice here when you're actually fighting the battle there. As you can see, there's a lot of heavy cavalry. Can you see that there's SPQ cavalry there as well now? So there's a heck of a lot of cavalry there ready to charge in. And as you can see, Legion's still got his general facing left there, showing his flank to the enemy. Okay, can you see that Legion now is charging his cavalry in to attack, a very aggressive attack into standing Brutii infantry. Right now, my guess is the enemy are going to counterattack with their cavalry. Right, can you see there? Now there's about 12 units of heavy cavalry charging. My guesses are going to charge through there. My guesses are probably going to go for the Julii general's flank. Right, can you see Legion's flank of his general being shown to the cavalry there? And if that cavalry hits, and bang, as that cavalry hits, and there you go. Legion's general has now been routed. Let's just pause the game for a second. So what we saw there, you see new players watching this, could you see there the enemy spotted the weakness of the way that general was stood and smashed into the flank and is routed. Now can you see that most of Legion's infantry here on the left flank has now been routed? If you've noticed, I've had to run one of my Carthage armies forward there to kind of stand in the breach there of what's been made by that enemy cavalry hit there. So now, as I said, I didn't really want to get bogged down fighting enemy troops with either of my Carthage armies, but now I'm going to have to, looks like, stand in the breach there to try and cover for where unfortunately our Julii allies, a lot of his units has been routed. Let's have a look at the battlefield here. You can see in the centre here you've got Mohammed moving units across. Over on the left though, as I say, Steve with his 7 infantry units are facing 15 infantry units, still quite quiet there. I was expecting Spartan Leonidas to have maybe aggressively attacked there, but over here on our right flank things are not looking very good. Now whether we can make anything out of this, whether we can get this position back on our right flank, we just have to wait and see. You can see enemy Brutii cavalry charging as well. There's enemy SPQR cavalry there. It wouldn't surprise me if that charged in as well. And then the Germania general's just pulled his cavalry back, going to charge in again. Once again he pulled the cavalry back, rallied it, charging it in to get the full cavalry charge bonus that we've talked about so often. See that SPQR cavalry? Let's just pause the game for a second. Let's say this is a massive cavalry battle going on here. I could bring in my Carthage Sacred Band over as well. It looks like basically all the cavalry in the game is involved here on this right flank. And maybe whoever wins this cavalry battle could go on to win the whole battle. So it could actually be extremely pivotal here on this right flank. As you see, I've moved one of my Carthage armies forward there into the breach to face the enemy Brutii infantry. If you notice, Gladius has aggressively attacked the SPQR army in front of him here with his main Spartan army, or one of his Spartan armies there, and he's also attacking some more SPQR units there over in the left centre. But as I say, right over on our left flank here, Spartan Leonidas with his 15 infantry has not even attacked Steve's 7 infantry there. If you notice, I'm moving my other Carthage army over to the right flank. As I say, what's happening here on the right could prove pivotal to the outcome of the battle. And see that cavalry, that Germania cavalry go in, and bang as that cavalry goes in. Then the SPQR cavalry going in, and bang as that cavalry hits. And you can see now all our allies' cavalry are starting to rout. If you notice, I'm bringing my Sacred Band cavalry in as well. But my guess is because my allies are routing, their morale is going to drop, and they'll rout pretty quick as well. And there you go, my Sacred Band cavalry looks like they've been routed at the same time. So as you see, a massive cavalry and infantry hit on our right flank here has absolutely decimated our cavalry and has almost broken our right flank. As I say, I've brought one of my Carthage armies over there to try and stand in the breach, and I've brought my secondary Carthage army over as well there, because things are looking so dire on our right flank here. As I say, that Germania general would have noticed that I've got both my armies engaged here now, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ran his army over to the left flank there, teamed up with Spartan Leonidas' SPQR army, and attacked Steve to take out our left flank as well. That's probably what the Germania general is thinking right at this moment. But as I say, I've got one of my armies in the breach, and I've got one stood just behind the breach there, ready to support if necessary. But I think this cavalry battle on the right flank could prove pivotal to the battle here, as I said earlier, and it looks like the enemy has certainly won that battle there. I think we've lost most of our cavalry there. Whatever happens in this battle now, they will be cavalry dominant. So I say things not looking that good for our team at the moment on this right flank. There, can you see, if you look over in the background, can you see the Germania general running over to the left flank like we thought he would? Just pause the game for a second. So to say, I've got both my armies here trying to stand in the breach that was made by that attack. But like we said, Germania has spotted that and is now moving over to his SBQR ally over on the left flank there, so that they can do a combination attack on Steve and rout Steve. Make no mistake, with only 7 infantry, if that Germania army and that SBQR army attack, it will rout Steve's army on the left flank. So not only have they been victorious on the right, they're looking like they're going to try and smash our left flank as well. The only thing I can do now is to try and take one of my armies over to that left flank to try and, if I can, counter that Germania attack. I'll leave my one army there to stand in the breach, as I said, facing Cal's Bruto army there, but I'm running my other Carthage army over to that left flank, having seen the danger of that Germania army moving over to the left. Remember, that Germania army is full of shock troops, morale sapping troops there, so when they attack, the morale is sapped of enemy troops, and that means they're more susceptible to routing. Right, just to draw your attention here, can you see that Titus Mohammed thought he spotted the rear of Gladius' Spartans attacking there, and he's charged his cavalry in, but luckily for our team, Gladius spotted it just in time and turned his Spartans to face the attack. And remember, the Spartans not only have got those 2 hit points, excellent morale, but they got a big anti-cavalry bonus as well. And unfortunately, I think Mohammed just mistimed his cavalry attack there, and Gladius' fast reactions with his Spartans turned to face it. And it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of those SBQR cavalry routed there. If you notice that Mohammed's still pressing forward with his attack, but he's actually facing Spartans head on now. And of course, if there's one pike unit you don't want to tangle with cavalry, and that is Spartans. And if you notice there, can you see most of Mohammed's cavalry has now been routed through the quick reactions of Gladius turning his Spartans to face that attack. Meanwhile, over on our left flank here, as we said, the Germania army is trying to team up with its ally, SBQR ally there, probably to come round our left to start routing our troops on the left flank there. Remember, those Germania troops, like I said, they're shock troops, morale sapping troops, and when they hit in combination with Rome, they very often rout armies, as we've seen on battle videos on here. As you can see, Gladius has got one of his Greek cities army out there engaging SBQR troops. I've moved one of my Carthage armies over to that left flank to try and neutralise that Germania attack. Some of Legion's infantry has rallied, and he's come back behind my Carthage Sacred Band. And also, if you notice, Gladius has brought over some of his Greek cities units here. We're going to need really good teamwork to survive this attack. And if you notice, there's a lot of Germania cavalry way off in the background there. I know Steve's cavalry was targeting them, and maybe the Germania general just sent them away from the archers there, and they've gone a little bit too far now. But as I say, you can see the general position in here. As I say, our right flank was pretty well hammered, but we've managed to get some pike units up there as well, and some of Legion's units has rallied as well, so we might be able to put that position right on the right. But as you can see there, there's still a lot of Carol's Brutii infantry there, and as I say, the enemy are cavalry dominant at this stage of the battle. You see, notice the Germania troops and the SBQR troops, like we said, are coming around our left flank. I hope I'm going to spot that quick enough with my Carthage army. I would have thought I would have been moving by now if I spotted that. I'm probably concentrating on other parts of the battlefield, but I should be watching what's happening. If you notice that SBQR troops and those Germania shock troops are now starting to get behind my secondary Carthage army. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. Right, so if you notice here, enemy SBQR units and the Germania troops have got in behind my secondary Carthage army. I noticed that Steve spotted a threat, and he's brought some of his Scipio troops across to block that. As you notice there, my main army there was getting engaged with enemy troops. I didn't want to get bogged down fighting other troops, but as you can see, a lot of enemy cavalry there still waiting to charge in. I noticed that the Germania cavalry are starting to return to the battlefield as well. You got Cal's infantry coming around our right flank, attacking the flank of my pikemen there. So as I say, the battle's really up in here. As I say, the Germania cavalry, those Gothic cavalry, are returning to the battlefield. Steve's still got his archers. My guess is he's targeting the Germania troops on the left flank. Remember, Germania troops are very susceptible to archer damage there. As you can see, I can see the way that Steve's archers are pointing there. They're shooting arrows into the enemy troops. But my guess is that the enemy Germania cavalry will see to that when they come in. But as I can say, it's a pretty bad position for us at the moment. Right, I've just spotted the Germania and SPQR troops coming around our left flank. I'm moving my army back. Right, can you see the berserkers are activated? See the red banners flashing? The berserkers have been activated. That's really bad. Now, if you notice, it's Steve shooting loads of fire arrows into the Germania troops. I just want to get my pikes down there. Now, I've just managed to my secondary army. I've just got my battle line sorted. And I've got the pikes down. Now, after they've routed that Scipio unit in front of my pikes, they'll then charge directly, I'm hoping, into my set pikes. Okay, my pikes are down, set, ready to receive a berserker charge. Bang, as they charge in. If you notice, there's loads of fire arrows hitting them. Steve shooting loads of fire arrows. This will panic them. If you notice, they're actually panicked by fire arrows there. But meanwhile, nice tactical move here by Spartan Leonidas. He's bringing his SPQR troops around the flank. Let's just pause the game. As we said earlier, the Germania cavalry have just taken out all of Steve's archers there. And if you notice, there's enemy Brutii cavalry in behind us as well. And as you can see, the SPQR troops have left flanked us there and be charging in. As you can see here, as I said earlier, the enemy are cavalry dominant at this stage of the battle, and that could prove pivotal towards the end of the battle there. If you notice, I got my Sacred Band A army, for like my general in fighting Cal's infantry. As I say, Legions rallied some of his Julii troops there, and he'll probably watch the flanks of my Carthage battle line there, stopping enemy coming round that flank. But as you can see, there's loads of enemy there. Can you see that Gladius has got one of his Greek cities armies out the front there, taking on not just Germania axemen, but SPQR units as well. And as I say, you can see the berserker units attacking my pikes head on. So there's a general overview of the battle at the moment, and I must be honest with you, it's not looking very good for our team at the moment. I'm glad we've managed to neutralise those berserkers, because I don't think they're going to break through my pikes. But if you notice here, nice move, as I said, by Spartan Leonidas, taking 3 units around the flank and charging into the flank of our units there. Steve spotted it, you see, and he's charging his Scipio units in to neutralise that attack. But as I say, you can see the enemy are swarming in behind us with their cavalry. As I say, this could be proved pivotal to the battle here. If you notice here, a lot of my my Carthage army here has been surrounded by Brutii troops, and Cal's just charging his cavalry in. Just to pause the game as well. Now, a lot of people don't use Carthage on the 31k battlefield, but as you can see here, their morale is really good. Yes, the general's in with his Carthage pikemen, but they're surrounded, they're being smashed from all sides and still holding. If you notice here, Spartan Leonidas is charging in with his cavalry, routing some of Legion's rallied infantry. The enemy are charging in from our left flank as well with infantry and cavalry. And of course, the berserkers are still pressing forward there with SPQR infantry help. So as I say, the battle's really up in the air at the moment, but looking at how many cavalry the enemy's got, I still feel that they have got the advantage at this time. As I say, Carthage, look how well Carthage is holding against that massive Brutii cavalry hit there. You notice I've charged my cavalry in to try and help my beleaguered infantry there, and they're still holding really well. Let's say the general's with them, yeah, giving them general bonus, but Carthage Sacred Band morale is usually pretty good. And anybody thinking about wanting to use a different faction for 31k, then I would advise you to try and bring Carthage, see how you get on with it. Their cavalry is good, their infantry is good, and their slingers seem to have loads of ammunition as well. Right, as you can see here, the enemy are charging their cavalry in, trying to take out Steve's general. Both Brutii and SPQR cavalry charging in there. As you can see, remember, we are the red, we're the Greek cities, the blue Scipii and Carthage. The enemy are the purple SPQR and Germania and the green Brutii. As I say here, my one army of Sacred Band pikemen there are holding really well against that big Brutii attack. You see, there's a lot of SPQR troops still ready to charge in there. Right, if you notice, there's a large amount of the effective against armour axemen just charging in there. Charging into the flank of one of my Sacred Band units. And remember, those effective against armour axemen are just that. They can cut swathes through heavily armoured troops. But I'm just thinking that one good cavalry hit into the back of those axemen there could maybe cause them to rout, because their morale's not very good and their general's nowhere near them. So and there's Steve going in with a cavalry hit, and bang, as that cavalry hit, there you go, straight into the back of those axemen there. And you can see that even though that cavalry was extremely battle damaged, it routed a couple of those units there. Meanwhile over here, as you can see, my one army with a general in, still doing really good against the enemy Brutii troops there that are attacking. If you notice, there's SBQR cavalry going into the back of a very battle damaged Carthage Sacred Band unit, and can you still see that that unit, even with 15 men or less, is still managing to hold, even though it got hit in the rear. It's still managing to hold, and it's only routed now. And I think, if I remember right, when I looked at that unit, there's only about one man left in that unit. Just goes to show how tough Carthage Sacred Band units can be. If anybody's thinking about bringing Carthage, I would say give it a go. They are a bit of an underestimated faction, but used properly they can do extremely well. As you can see here, remember we're the red Julii, the Greek cities, Carthage, and the blue Scipii, and the enemy are the purple SBQR, the Brutii, green Brutii, and Germania. So just at a glance there, you can see exactly what's happening there. If you notice, I'm bringing some of my Carthage Sacred Band around the rear of the enemy troops there to try and get in behind them. But at this stage of the battle, it looks like, if you remember, when our right flank got hammered and the enemy was so cavalry dominant, it looked to me like the chances of us winning this battle was very, very slight. But it looks now a little bit more even. If we look at what's happening on the battlefield now, we can see that we seem to have maybe even changed the course of the battle here now. I see a lot of enemy units starting to rout now, and if you look at the general amount of units on the battlefield, if you look at who they are, you can see it's mostly, I think it's our troops, mostly. Right, just going to pause the game. Just want to show you just how intense this battle was, how intense the fighting was. Right over on the right flank, do you remember where all that cavalry hit and we lost most of our cavalry? And that's where we thought the battle may well have been, this part of the battlefield may have been pivotal to the outcome of the battle, because the enemy kind of won that cavalry battle so decisively. They had loads of cavalry left, and if you look at the piles of dead on that right flank, you see it's mostly our cavalry. As we move up through the where the fighting was most intense, you can see the piles of dead. As I say, it just goes to show how intense the fighting was here in this 4v4 large battle. Large piles of dead from one side to the other. Even go up into the centre there, you can see there. I noticed that there seems to be a flying Spartan. Did I see a flying Spartan? Yes, I did. And oh, he is dead. It says he is dead, but he is flying there. So interesting development there. But as you can see here, it looks like our troops have mostly gone on to actually win this battle. But I think when we saw our right flank broken there and so many cavalry left with the enemy, I think we thought that probably would be the end for us there. But we've managed to, as I say, our team has managed to go on to win this battle.
It will suffice.
Such an intense battle, I think that was, from one side to the other. Okay, the first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game there. That's really well done to you there. And I'd just like to say, draw your attention to Gladius. Some nice kills for Gladius there. I noticed that he was being aggressive all the way through the battle. He had units right out in the forward positions fighting as well. But just like to draw your attention, can you see the two pike units, Carthage and Greek cities, got the two highest kills? So that goes to show how tough pikes can be there. And if you notice here, can you see that the Germania general, IOW Amberix, got the highest kills in the enemy team there? Now you might not have thought that, because if you notice, he didn't seem to be killing a lot of troops, if you notice there, but he did. He got the highest kills in his team there. So really well done to Germania there. As I say, I was trying to be the damnedest nuisance I could to him with my Carthage army, and I think afterwards he said to me I was a bit of a nuisance. As you see, it says an average victory, but I would have thought that would have been more of a close victory. I don't know, like if you watching it before you knew what type of victory it would be, would you have thought it was close? I thought it would be close. Just to say, really well done to IOW Amberix, well done to Brotherhood member Cal and Spartan Leonidas. And just have a look at the specifications of my Carthage army there. I don't think there was anything outstanding there. I can't see anything really outstanding of my my army there. Oh, I see one unit's, I think, killed 191, so that's quite good. But in general, there was nothing really outstanding of my army there. But I just thought it was good to see how well that was, and just say really well done to Titus Mohammed as well. He did extremely well. So really well done to the enemy team, and really well done to Steve Longshanks, Legion 22 and Gladius. Great teamwork there. Some really great as I say, team moves, some really great aggressive attack in there, and really well done. And as I say, sorry Amber X for being such a nuisance with my Carthage Sacred Band, but I thought it was a good example of what could be done. Spartan Commander saying bye for now.